was a small increase in comparison to previous years, but still, it was an increase. It was a difference between having to drop out of college and staying for many students. For many more, it was a difference between going to college and joining a dole queue. This has of course been a trend in Ireland for a long time. When my own parents were my age, there was no question of them going to university, as they weren't from privileged backgrounds. It was straight out of school and into a job. The system we have in Ireland today has made a feeble attempt at destroying the elitism in third level education. The grant system caters for those who can't afford a third level education, meaning that even if a person's parents are unemployed, they have the same opportunities as everybody else. But this system seems to completely bypass a certain section of the population. Yes, it means that those from wealthy backgrounds and those from underprivileged backgrounds can get a third level education. But what happens to those in between? I myself are one of the in-betweeners. I come from a family with 2 working parents. My mother is working 3 jobs. Yet despite their best efforts, there is no way they will be able to find the €5,000 to send my sister and I to college this coming year. We would love to have had summer jobs and earned the money ourselves, but there are no jobs out there. Believe me, we tried. Those are the words of Patrick Kelleher, who's just done his Leaving Cert, speaking about the young people whose parents can't afford to send them to college and the phenomenon he sees as the in-betweeners. Patrick is on the line. Good morning to you, Patrick.
Hi, Jerry.
Thanks very much for talking to us.
Thanks, yeah.
What moved you to write that piece?
Well, I felt compelled to write it really after my experiences with applying for the grant and with, trying to go to college in general. It's been a tough experience because obviously I figured out at some point that I didn't really know where I was getting the money to go to college. So I decided that after I applied for the grant and I knew I was unsuccessful, I decided I was going to write that article because I felt that there must be more students other than me who were in a similar situation in the country.
Caught in the middle?
Yeah.
And that's between, I suppose, people who can automatically are very wealthy or very rich, they can afford to go to college, their parents, their grandparents, their great-grandparents possibly even went to college. It's just a matter of course. And then the grant system that's in place for people from underprivileged backgrounds, which will pay all their fees.
Yeah, exactly, yeah, because there are, people like me in the middle who, their parents are just over the threshold for the grant, so, their parents could be earning, a few thousand more than the grant says, and they won't get any money at all, and they have to pay €2,250 in fees at the beginning of the college year, and, obviously most people aren't going to be able to afford that.
One of the things you identified in the piece as well was talking about the grant system and how you feel it addresses or unfairly looks at your parents' income. Tell me a bit about that.
Yeah, it does, because the grant system specifically asks the student to put in their parents' gross income. So the grant authority are including the money that their parents never even saw in the income. A lot of that money is taken off the parents' taxes. Also, the grant system doesn't take into account at all, expenses like mortgages and travel expenses and distance from work and that kind of thing.
So it doesn't take away the amount of money that's eaten up by the universal household charge or the universal social charge, the household charge, the taxes they pay in their income anyway, and the cost of actually going out to work every day for them, and then it applies that across the board to the overall level of money your parents get, and they say, well, you're wealthy enough to go to college. Is that what you feel the state saying?
Yeah.
And what do you think needs to be changed about that, Patrick?
Well, I think that there needs to be a lot of reform. I think that there are several situations that could arise. I'd like to see a situation personally where student loans were introduced, and at the moment the system is that a student my age, they can't get a loan really unless they have their own income, so their parents have to take a loan out for them. I'd like to see a system where we had student loans that a student could pay back after they finish college, and also if the government aren't prepared to do that, then I think they need to scrap third level fees, because I think that in a recession the most important thing is to educate the next generation. We are the next generation of workers, and they are raising third level fees. People are joining the dole queue because they can't afford to go to college, and I think it's very wrong. I think that there needs to be a lot of reform.
What effect is this having on your parents, Patrick? They sound like hard workers, and the ultimate ambition of a lot of parents is to do better for their children than they had themselves. Your parents didn't get the chance to go to college, but they obviously wanted you and your sister to go. So what effect is it having on them?
Well, it's having a big effect on them, obviously, because, as I said in the article, my mother is just after taking on her third job, and, and, save up money to send us to college. And, my dad is working so hard too, but there's nothing they can do because there's no way that they can, once they get their wages and once they pay all their expenses, there's very little left. There's not enough left to save up money. And it's having a big effect on them because they know that they're going to have to try and find the money somewhere, and we know that we can't find the money, you know what I mean?
Is it a thing of like they're disappointed they can't manage it?
Yeah.
It's no fault of their own.
Yeah, exactly.
What's the option for you if you don't get the money together?
If I don't get the money together, then well, I'll just have to stay here and work harder and to try my best to get a job. I've already tried my best to get a job, so I don't see it happening. But I mean, I live in a small town, but there's very little going on in terms of business. So if I did stay here because I couldn't afford to go to college, there would be a very small chance of me getting any work.
Patrick, would you ever find yourself, I suppose, in a situation that you'll have to go on the dole for some time before?
Probably, yeah. At some point, I probably will because it's. I mean, obviously, I'm just after doing my leave and cert. I just left school, and with the way things are looking at the moment, I may not be able to go to college. So if I can't go to college and I can't get a job, then I probably will be going on the dole, yeah.
And that's the fallacy of what you see as the government's approach at the moment.
Yeah.
Patrick, what do you want to do in college?
I'd like to study English and history in college.
And what about your sister?
She wants to study film and television.
Two kind of things you want to do to see where you go and obviously get that education to go out there and be a worker. If Rory Quinn was on the line with us this morning, the Minister for Education, what would you say to him?
I'd say that he needs to do some more work in regards to either student loans or reducing fees, because students and parents are under so much pressure for this year to become educated. And basically we're being given a choice. You can either go on the dole or you can be educated, but it's not really much of a choice at all, because if you can't get the money to go to college, you have to go on the dole. You would think that the government would prefer students to go to college rather than go on the dole.
Yeah. The student loan option would be one that gives you a bit of a window. It'll give you a couple of years. What happens in the United States is that, and the cost of college there is exorbitant really, to have their own problems, but they give you the loan, it's like entering into a contract. You do your study, you work hard, you get your qualification, then once you get a job and start earning, you start paying the loan back.
Yeah. Obviously it's not an ideal system either, but I look at it in the way that, we're in such a bad recession, every area has to take a hit of some kind, and unfortunately I even understand that education isn't going to get away scot-free in the recession. So I would like to see student loans coming in personally, and I think that's the best system, because it's an odd idea to assume the students have the money to send themselves to college, or their parents have the money to send their students to college.
Yeah, maybe your parents might have had the money 3 or 4 years ago, but with everything that's happened, the taxes on people's houses now, the way they're going to increase, the universal social tax hitting your incomes at source, and possibly if you have to move further away, like if your mother has to drive an extra 10 miles or 20 miles a day to get to that third job, then that's the money that was there, that was for your college education, out the window.
Exactly, yeah.
Listen, Patrick, it's an interesting story you tell, I suppose, of a section of society like you say that's being bypassed. Hopefully the government will listen and things will change to ensure that everyone gets an equal chance to go to college, because it doesn't sound like that's the case at the moment. But thanks for explaining it to us this morning.
Yeah, thanks.
Great stuff. That's Patrick Kelleher there. An interesting article talking about the bypassed people in the middle, and there's plenty of talk about the squeezed middle in terms of people out there who are working, paying all their taxes and seeing their incomes being withdrawn and being hit from all sides, and their mortgages maybe increasing or finding it tougher to pay their mortgages, and that's